Tell me about this location.
Well, this location is basically our kitchen. It's our studio, and this is where the magic happens.
And your greenhouse as well.
It's the greenhouse as well. It's the content production studio, lighting visualization. This is our in-house music studio, and it's one of the core elements of what we have in the kitchen to produce our shows. So here we get all the ingredients, mix it together in producing our shows and designs.
Can you just tell me how you first got interested in designing shows and in performance environments?
My parents are both classical musicians, and they were playing in the orchestras, and I'm raised with classical music in a house full of kids without a television, and I'm still very grateful for that because it helped me to develop my creative side and to create things out of my own imagination without having an example of what's on TV or games or stuff like that. So I was using my brothers and sisters and kids in the neighborhood to dress them up and to start a theater play or build a circus tent in our backyard, and then designed my own admission tickets, and then trying to sell it to the neighbors and get them to our garden to witness the show. And later on, I helped my dad, who was doing a lot of performances. So when I was 5-6 years old, I was his backline roadie, and I was just carrying his drums upstage and make sure everything, his kit was set up correctly.
He was a drummer, percussionist.
Yeah, percussionist, yeah, exactly. I got mesmerized by the world around it, so he was doing a lot of stuff in theater as well, and I was sitting on the side of the stage and seeing all the interesting stuff, decoration and lighting and all of the gear there, and got really interested in it.
That's when you started thinking about making a career out of it.
At that time, I couldn't actually, officially I couldn't work because I was not allowed to work with machinery and with high voltage equipment. I used it as a hobby and tried to get as much knowledge from it as I could. But when I turned 18, on the day that I turned 18, I went back to the theater and knocked on the door. So like, hey guys, I'm 18 now. I can work. And I think within a week or so, I was doing my first theater show.
Fast forward a few years. Obviously you've got Live Legends, which is a fantastic sort of design and direction and production company. When did that start and how did it start?
Live Legends is founded in 2016 when we merged my old company with Alta Haan's company, my current partner. He is a known director and content creator in our business, and I was more on the design and the lighting part. He was producing a lot of shows, but he didn't own a lot of gear, and at that moment we already had quite a large stack of lighting desk, media servers and show control equipment. So we figured, like, let's just put this together, and then we don't need to invest on either side, and can take things to the next level. On an annual base, we are involved in almost 100 productions a year, and between 20 and 30 countries.
You've been working in China with Live Legends a lot over the last 2-3 years, but your actual roots, or your connection to China goes back far further than that, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Can you tell me about how that all started?
Yeah, so back in the day I was working a lot with Asian groups, cultural groups who were traveling in Europe, and in 2008 I was working on a show called China Impressions, and that one got awarded as a national export product of culture in China, and then we got asked to do that show in Shanghai actually. and that's where the whole adventure started. I get to see a new world, and I was so much interested in it because we toured together. I got to know the Chinese team, and that made me really interested in their culture and trying to understand why they do what they do, and why, you know, the language barrier is obviously there, but behind that there's like an insanely rich culture that I thought was so much more interesting. From that moment on, I've been touring a lot in that region, and I was just really curious and trying to understand the culture, trying to understand why they say what they say and why they behave how they behave, and I think that's also the reason why we are still there, because you're a guest in someone's country, so you have to be curious and try to understand the culture in order to produce something that makes sense for them, not for you. You know, it's great to work on a big show and then to be able to tell the world that you did that, but that's not important. It's about the audience in that room who's experiencing, and you want them to connect with the story and give them something that they bring back home.
You've taken quite a different approach in your club designs, haven't you, in China? Can you explain a bit about that?
A nightclub is still, people need to dance, and need to be able to drink, and music, and everything that a club has is important. But what I really wanted to bring are actually two elements. First of all, I always try to find a connection with the local culture, and if that's in China or the Middle East, or it doesn't matter where, but it's really interesting to get a little bit more depth of what their culture is about, and to be able to incorporate that into a design or into a show makes it more rich, and also makes it more relevant to the people from that area. And it's a place where they can be proud of, because it has a deeper meaning, and there's a deeper connection that can be made apart from all the show effects and everything that we are creating afterwards. But the other thing is, I think the Dutch dance culture, which is also something that they find very interesting, and we really try to find a balance to create a nightclub, but then also to take elements of like the dance culture that we know here with the festivals and the DJ culture that we have, combined with the cultural elements, and then with a touch of natural design, mix that up, and I think that makes those venues more interesting.
So I hear that you've learned a bit of Chinese along the way?
Itian, very little.
Just tell us how that happened.
I really tried to pick up as much words as I could throughout all those travels, but I always made an excuse that I didn't have time to understand and study the language. So I was done with that, and it's like I don't want to make that excuse anymore. It's that's the easiest way. So I went to a monastery, and then
here in Netherlands.
Here in the Netherlands, yeah, and then had to study for 16 hours a day, and then finally I passed the bar, and I have the first level of Chinese now. Yeah.
What would you say you most enjoy about working in China?
The moment that we open the show for the first time, and you see people visibly emotionally touched, that's when you got it right, and then that's when they are connected with the story. And that's not only in China, that's worldwide, right? And
absolutely.
That's why we do what we do, I think.
Absolutely.
But I think in China, there is something humble about it. How they are. It's really interesting to see how differently they react to the shows that we produce, for example, and how different they look at certain shapes or colors or patterns, or obviously the whole feng shui is also something that you have to take in mind when you design stuff. But I think the personal approach to the business side is really the most enjoyable, because of course the business part is important, but it's a distraction from what we are trying to do.
What do you most love about your work?
The essence of creation and the ability, well, the chance actually to create something. And there is huge vulnerability in that, because whenever we present a design, you put it in the hands of the client, and that goes back to when I was a little kid, and you draw something on paper and you hand it over to your parents or your school teacher, and you created something that you like, but that's not important because the other person has to, you know, feel the connection. And at that moment you put your whole heart and soul on the wage, and the other person has the power bestowed upon them to like something, yes or not. And that goes beyond any language or culture or politics or contracts or whatsoever. And I think everything that we produce here, for me, is really important that element is in there, you know, because in the end there's an audience gonna see and hear the experience or the show or the production, whatever it is, and they can decide, you know.